I'm speechless. He seems somewhat disturbed here.
I think we got this covered. I mean, Joe Ingram's going to do a 10-hour YouTube live stream. Matt Berkey's going to do another podcast where he says a lot of big words that he definitely knows the meaning to.
After the Skills Rock cheating scandal that rocked the Hustler Casino livestream back in February this year, it seems a new poker cheating controversy has emerged. In this video, we look at the insane hand and shocking cheating allegations and the aftermath of the incident, and we also go back in time to a legendary hand Stu Ungar played, which might flash some more insight to this story. On September 30th, 2022, Hustler Casino organized a high-stakes cash game with players like Garrett Adelstein, Phil Ivey, and many more popular names. The hand that has since shocked the poker world was played between Garrett Adelstein and Robbie Jade Lew. Garrett is a regular on the Hustler Casino live show and said to be the biggest winner with over $1.8 million in winnings. He is also thought by many to be a candidate for the best live cash game player in the world. Robbie Jade Lew, compared to Garrett, is a fairly amateur player. The game is 100, 200, 400 with a 400 big blind ante and an 800 big blind straddle in play. Garrett raises to 3,000 from the third blind with 8-7 of clubs, and Robbie calls in the straddle holding Jack of clubs and 4 of hearts. This is a questionable defend, but still we can let it slide. The flop comes down 10 of hearts, 10 of clubs, and 9 of clubs. Garrett bets 2,500 and Robbie calls with a backdoor flush draw. The turn is where the hand goes completely insane and is something which we did not expect to see at this level of professional poker with this much money in stake. The turn is a 3 of hearts and Garrett fires out a big bet of $10,000 with a straight flush draw, and normally 99% of the time this is where the hand usually ends. But on the contrary, Robbie goes in the tank for a while and then decides to min raise with a bet of $20,000. Now this is where the hand starts to drift from conventional play to out of line territory. Garrett takes his time before 3-bet jamming, putting Robbie all in for almost $109,000 to call. What happens next in this hand is truly unbelievable. Robbie checks her hand for at least 15 seconds before calling it off after declaring out loud that she has a bluff catcher. The players agree to run it twice, and Garrett loses both hands and a pot worth $269,000. Garrett Adelstein's expression when the cards were flipped over was unlike anything we had seen from him previously. It's almost as if he had seen a ghost. Garrett was clearly shocked and suspicious immediately after the hand. When Garrett asked Robbie how she made the call, she gave some pretty contradictory answers, which honestly do not make sense.
And then so why call with Jack Eye then?
First of all, a little bit of a straight draw. I have blockers. It's not about what I have. It's about what I don't think you have.
She talks about having the Jack of clubs and blockers, etc., but cannot really explain how all this makes sense in the decision she took. Another twist to this story was that shortly after the hand, Garrett left the table and was seen talking behind the scenes with Robbie. She voluntarily handed the money to Garrett after asking what would make him happy and returned to the game. Garrett took the chips but quickly bagged up his own stack and left without saying a word. This is the worst thing that Robbie could have done for a reputation, because after making such an incredible alleged hero call, if you decide to return the money, it basically makes you look guilty and takes away all credibility of your hero call. But she may have done this because after the Mike Postle and Skills Rocks fiasco, she probably did not want her name to be dragged in any controversy. Garrett accepted the money because he was convinced he was cheated and hence justified that he did not do anything wrong. There is an argument that she could have misread her hand, but before making the call, she did look at her cards for a long time, so that is highly unlikely, although it is not impossible. However, after that hand, she did say in a post-interview that she thought she had Jack 3 instead of Jack 4, and so she thought she had a pair and made the hero call.
The reason I said that is because I thought I was holding a Jack of clubs and a 3 of whatever.
If this is true, it's understandable that Robbie was embarrassed to make such an error in front of the cameras. Doug Polk immediately tweeted that Hustler should stop streaming and start an investigation, and many of his followers agreed, suspecting something fishy was going on. Joe Ingram was quick to fire up an emergency live broadcast to dig through what had just happened. Hustler Casino Live offered its own statement to say that it would not invite either player back to the show until it had thoroughly investigated the incident. Both players gave Twitter statements later, with Garrett giving a lengthy explanation of why he believed Robbie was cheating, saying that her call in this moment did not mesh with her previous betting patterns, and alleging that a way to cheat during live stream poker would be to have some type of vibrating device that tells you when you have the best hand or having possession of a card reader. A curious aspect of this situation is that when Robbie called, she had less than a 50-50 shot to win. One would imagine that if she did have a clairvoyant knowledge of the exact hand he was holding, she would have folded on the turn when he went all in. Robbie asked Garrett to get over it on her tweet before calling out Adelstein to return the money she had won from him. Responding to the allegation, Robbie seemed confident that she would be vindicated and invited Garrett to a heads-up game where the whole world can watch me read you all day. Now, I would like to point your attention to a hand that was played 30 years ago by Stu Ungar. In 1990, Stu Ungar had a chance to become the only player in history to win 3 main event titles in freeze-out format. Having already been crowned champion in 1980 and 1981, Ungar held a commanding chip lead as the tournament neared its conclusion, but having gone back to his hotel room at the end of the second day, his bad habits got the better of him, ending up in hospital. As a result, he missed the final day of the tournament, ultimately finishing 9th place for $25,000 simply by being blinded off. Mansoor Matloubi won the main event that year, but once he had recovered, Stu Ungar was keen to prove a point to the new world champion and the rest of the world, and he challenged Matloubi to a $50,000 heads-up freeze-out match. The duel eventually took place at the Four Queens early the next year. Matloubi initially took the lead in the match, then Ungar nudged in front. With blinds of 200-400 and Ungar holding 60,000 to Matloubi's 40,000, the players were dealt 10-9 offsuit and 4-5 offsuit respectively. Before we continue with this video, give me 20 seconds to let you know that for a limited time, one of Blub the Spot's coaches, Jimmy Durade, is giving away his guide on how to crush your opponents in 3-bet pots for free. If you're serious about your poker game and want to develop an unfair advantage over your opponents pre-flop and understand how pros really make their pre-flop decisions, I strongly recommend you check it out. The link is in the description. Stu Ungar began the action with a raise to 1600 and Matloubi called holding 4-5 offsuit. The flop came 3-3-7 rainbow, Matloubi checked, and Ungar made a big bet of $6,000, which Matloubi called with his gut shot straight draw. Both players then checked the king turn. The river was the queen, and smelling weakness in Stewie, Matloubi jammed all in with the 32,000 he had back. After only a few seconds in the tank, Stu Ungar called out his opponent's hand and ended the match with a stroke of genius by saying, "You have 4-5 or 5-6, I call." Stu Ungar flipped up his 10 high with the astonishment of those watching, winning the match and proving his point to the world. This hand is quite similar to the one in question, where one person had a draw on the flop and the other person held nothing. It must be pointed out that I'm not comparing the skills of Robbie to the legendary Stu Ungar. I am just stating that had Stu Ungar been still alive and made this hero call in 2022, would we have accused him of cheating? Probably not. There are millions of hands of poker played every day, and with such high numbers, you are bound to witness certain hands that are beyond explanation or solver logic. Nothing that we have talked about in this video is proof. But one thing remains clear. The community sentiments is largely against Robbie. The hand is highly critical of her and slanted towards guilt. The more balanced perspectives are far less common, and while there are some players defending her, the narrative appears to be largely established. We end this video with a bit of humor and sarcasm from Will Jaffe.
And while we're at it, guys, look, I appreciate it all. All of the takes, all the opinions, all the detective work out there. The information is really flowing right now. But I gotta say, I think we got this covered. I mean, Joe Ingram's gonna do a 10-hour YouTube live stream. Matt Berkey's gonna do another podcast where he says a lot of big words that he definitely knows the meaning to. Doug Polk is taking a break from his next big crypto project, and Sean Deeb's already on the case. So I think we got this covered, Twitter. And to the guy who made Rounders, no offense, bro, but we don't give a about your opinion on this. We just want you to make another poker movie, man. How hard can it be? Do you see how desperate we are for this shit? Bro, I'll be the main character. And Tim Riley can play Matt Damon. Do you really need to make Billions season 10? Like, is that necessary?